actual reality of power around them, just as you and everyone else alive currently are. What you're about to hear are opinions, suppositions, like gospel or scientific proofs, not infallible certainties. Brace yourself for incoming opinions that could confirm or deny your preferential view of the reality of power. Brace yourself for fallible material, fallible opinions, and values reflected, but nonetheless variable and firmly held. We do not apologize to anyone in FM. We do not apologize for daring to express our views and impressions of what we believe is and what we hope to see. We will keep talking so long as we are able.
And now, Frico attempts to talk about the news without freaking out.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, if you can look at me, you can probably see that I am a bit under the weather today. This is not a flu or a cold or anything. This is allergies, hay fevers, whatever. My eyes are on fire right now. Like, they hurt really, really bad. They're when I get the bad allergy, whatever's, my eyes burn. Like, wow, do they burn sometimes. And today, usually, my eyes don't get this bad until, like, as the day goes on, it get worse and worse. So I woke up like this, and I was like, well, this is going to be a fun day. But, you know, you soldier on. And you look up above me here, and you see it says 0. 0 shows since last freakout. And today is going to be another challenging day. So, I don't know. If I end up freaking out today, I will end up putting a minus. Now, I will say this. If I have minuses, like a minus will be that many days in a row. So, I'll put a -2 at the end of today, meaning I've gone 2 shows in a row with a freak out. But if the next day I don't freak out, then I go from a -2 to a -1. I can go from a -5 to a +1 instantly. So just to keep a sense of the scale that I'm going to, or the parameters that I'm going to use. So hopefully I don't end up putting a -2 there, because it'll go from 0 to minus. You know what? I could just put, I could do this. Why don't I do this? I'm going to do this. I'm going to make it -1 shows. -1. I'm going to, instead of putting zeros, it's going to go from it'll either be 1 or more, or it'll be -1 or more. That's what it'll be. It'll never say 0. It'll never say 0 again. The only real 0 really should have been the first show, where there was nothing. There was nothing. And then after that first show, then I put a little thing there. -1 or 1. In this case, we're at -1, ladies and gentlemen, and we want to switch from -1 to 1. That's the goal today. And let's see how well we do with this. What do we got planned for you today? Well, we've got TikTok ticks back its hashtag block of BLM. The principle of Martin Luther King's non-cooperation with evil. Facebook employees demand political censorship in name of justice. Terahertz radiation could kill cancer without killing you. And finally, our news poem today is Affectiva talks up artificial emotional intelligence. Let me get ready for the first segment here, which is going to be the headline segment. But before I do, let me go back here. Here I will. Hold on. Hey. Sorry about this, folks. There we go. There we go. Hold on 1 second. Yeah, this is bad. This is snotting up and all the stuff. It's all flowing and oh gosh. You know, I really feel okay other than what's going on with the allergy stuff, but other than that, I'm actually having a good day. So and the allergy stuff, it's like inconvenient, but doesn't really bother me. I guess looks wise it bothers you. When you're doing a show, you don't want to have bad allergies, especially right before you're about ready to go to the show. All of a sudden you get a really, really bad allergy flare up. But at any rate, because of you, the people, despite my allergies, the show must go on. And so the show will go on. Now, this is a 7 a.m. show. And I think, all things being equal, biologically, the best time is 9 a.m. That's where the flow is the best for me. But in terms of practicality, in terms of yeah, I would say 6 a.m. is probably the best time that I hope works out. But I'm going to try 7 a.m. Well, I'm doing it right now. I'm trying the 7 a.m. time. I have done 9 a.m. I'm going to do an 8 a.m. time sometime next week, as well as a 10 and 11 next week. And then I will look at stuff, and it's not an exact science. Obviously, what you optimally, if you could, you'd want to be running a show at a certain time for maybe 2 or 3 weeks, and then I can't go. I will just have to make do with what I have, the imperfect science that I have, which is to try it out in a few days. Just a few. What I'm really looking for when I try out these different times between 6 a.m. and noon is if there's some just really noticeable spike in the types of videos and traction that I get. Now, I did get a spike when I did the 6 a.m. show, but not in the live streams, and I don't know if it had anything to do with anything other than the fact that it could very well just be the video topic itself, and the video is called, let me get it up here, it is called Somaliland. It's my Somaliland video from a few days ago, and can't find it here. What the freak is going on? Anyway, without, even if I can't find it right this very second, don't know what's going on. Am I looking right at it and I don't notice it? Okay, let me try it like this, okay? So that video got close to 2,000 views. And I have gone from 113 subs to, as of right now, last check, I am now at over 180 subs. So was that a spike from moving? I don't think that was necessarily because I put the video out at that time, but who knows? So I will do another 6 a.m. time next week as well. And then by the end of the week, what I promise you is by the end of the week, I will definitely settle on the time that the show will be at from here on out. But as of right now, I am I'm not finding my video. I sure hope that is not some. Oh, there it is. Whew. There's the Somaliland video. Okay, so it's the Somaliland video, which shows here 1,864 views in the back end. It shows more, shows almost 2,000. Now, on that Somaliland topic, I do want to add real quick before we get this show started that I had planned on doing a show, not this Monday, but next Monday, which is basically going to be featuring mostly Somaliland. I really want to go into more about their particular type of ethics that they've developed through their tribal customs throughout the centuries, and a little bit more background information on Somaliland. I plan on doing the same type of thing for some other, either basically stories or regions that I find particularly worth paying attention to. And I plan, and I'm still going to do that show. So a lot of folks, a lot of Somalilanders responded to that video. There were some Somalis too. And most of the people were pro-Somaliland. There were Somalis there that were not interested in Somaliland becoming another country, a separate country. And there were even some Somalilanders that didn't support that. I do want to interview a Somalilander, and I want to interview a pro-Somalilander, honestly. I want to just do that. And I'll do that after I do the Somaliland show. At some point, there will be a follow-up where it'll be a pre-recorded segment that I'll probably play of an interview with an actual Somalilander, because I've had 3, I think, folks so far that have contacted me in one way, shape, or form to inform me that they are interested in being interviewed about Somaliland. So that's coming up. That's coming up, folks. And hey, we grew our channel. We, the people that chose to throw in and become subscribers, become part of the community of Freako, the Freak Out community, the Freak Outers. We don't freak out. We just let people think we're going to freak out while we're quietly planning and organizing our own methods of basically of supporting one another with tools and services and whatnots that don't depend upon the hierarchical, highly centralized, highly controlled structures of the citadelians that roam the earth and have since humans began organizing in cities, at the very least. Actually, probably before that. With that in mind, it's time for us to move on. And we're going to do that. Oh, by the way, here you go. That's the Somaliland video there. Somaliland seeks international recognition of self-rule. There you go. There you could see it. So, happy with that result, certainly. Let's get to the next segment here, and that's going to be a talk headline. So let me take one moment here to clear stuff out and try to confabulate. I'm actually feeling a tiny bit better. Now, normally I would take an allergy, whatever thingy, and I can't think of the name. Blah. But sometimes they make me a little woozy and weird, so I'm just going to have to suck it up and deal with the allergies. Alrighty. I literally sucked it up. I know you didn't need to hear that. Good morning, by the way. Good morning. Enjoy your breakfast. We're going to start recording in 3, 2, 1. These are the talk headlines for Frico Talks the News on Friday, June 5th, 2020. My name is Frico with Frico.com. I come to you bearing allergies, and even with the allergies, I soldier forward, ladies and gentlemen, and theys, and everyone else and anyone else. These are the talk headlines. Well, actually, it's the top headline that we focus on Frico Talks the News. If you want more talk headlines that don't make it on the show, go to Frico.com. I got all kinds of links and loves for you there. This top headline, TikTok tips back its hashtag block of BLM. TikTok issues official apology for the policies that led to the hashtag Black Lives Matter, leading to posts getting blocked. Now, I am going to say, by the way, that I am particularly proud of my headlining writing skills, especially because these headlines, I got a little bit of traction on the YouTubes, and I'm trying to see if maybe YouTube will let me show up in search algorithms better than it has. So, because I got a little bit more traction, who knows? So, it's a little experiment I'm doing today. So, I'm trying title. Basically, my titles I create up to now have been entirely, I'm just trying to express however I want to express. I'm not necessarily trying to be the best marketer, certainly not thinking of SEO. Today, I want to be creative with my titles, but at the same hand, and they won't be quite as creative today, although this one I lucked out on, I think. I am also infusing SEO into these things more than usual. We'll see after today. If I see a noticeable difference, I may have to consider that with my headlines from now on. But if not, then I'll go back to the way it was because I prefer it that way. But I'm willing to make some degrees of sacrifices for marketing and SEO, just not too much. But in this case, it all came together. Ladies and gentlemen, TikTok ticks back its hashtag block the BLM. Come on. Love that. I put that on the TikTok ticks back. It's hashtag block BLM. I want that on a t-shirt. 5 minutes from now, nobody will get the reference, but still, for a brief hot second, people will get it. I won't wear it then. I'll wait till nobody gets it to wear it. Then it's much better that way. Here's an excerpt from technode.com. TikTok apologizes for blocking Black Lives Matter hashtag. You know what's really great about this? This is a Chinese-owned company. So Han China. Yeah. Now China is not all Han China, but it's like 90% Han China, and Chairman Xi is definitely a Han China, so Chinese supremacist. So the fact that it's the Han Chinese supremacist nation state of China, the Han Chinese, yes, because not all Chinese are Han Chinese, but the Han Chinese nation state of China, it makes it all the more, I don't know if wonderful. Well, wonderful would be the right word if you were 50 years in the future looking back and just trying to find entertaining narratives that you can convert into product in the here and now. This would be one of those times you're like, well, this is wonderful. We could do stuff with this. That's what I mean by wonderful, not in any other sense. Black Lives Matter and George Floyd, or excuse me, I skipped a sentence. Don't want to do that to TechNode. Sorry, TechNode. TikTok users accused the platform last week of censoring hashtags Black Lives Matter and George Floyd amid nationwide protests in the U.S. against the death of George Floyd, a 46-year-old black man who was killed during a police arrest on May 25. That's right, I didn't add the fifth on that one. I just let it May 25, and I prefer it that way. Ha! Harumph! Before the platform made adjustments, TikTok users found the search results of the two hashtags showed they had 0 views. Oh my, that is not good. That is a little bit misplaced filtering, given your primary audience, children, beset with the grief and the angst that they have no idea that they can't even process for the most part. But the virtue and the all of the child's mind in a time such as this. Wow. I mean, children in general, especially when you get to that state where you're starting to transition to adult and the biochemicals are fluttering and bemoaning and bashing you in the face. This is quite a time for you to be experiencing that, even in calm times. I can't imagine what kids are going to, especially the kids, say, from the ages of 10 to 18, what they're going through. And how easy it is for them to be manipulated right now, and how many people are so easily doing that. And here you got TikTok in the midst of one of the greatest marketing opportunities of all time. And don't get me wrong, I'm pro. I guess you could say I'm pro in general Black Lives Matter. Not all Black Lives Matter groups are the same. Some are very fascistic in nature, and some are really consensual in nature. There's a lot of there's either for good or ill. I would never stand up and declare anything about Black Lives Matter other than to say what I just said. It depends on who and what you're talking about. But the sentiment, where Black Lives Matter as a hashtag emerged, I think I support. I support this. I don't need all lives matter. I think it's important. And I will tell you this. I also think it's important in that so long as we continue as a nation, and it's white people, black people, all of us, so long as we continue as a nation to not want to look at the ugly side of who and what we are never going to come to terms with the parts of this system that are fundamentally broken, that are keeping significant portions of human beings, and it's not just black human beings that are in this position, but black human beings, for a variety of reasons within this nation state, they're almost like the canary in the coal mine for the state of America, because of how we came about, because they began as 3/5 of a person, the bellwether of America, and is kind of the health of Black America. If Black America is burning down, well, I don't think, actually it's not even Black America, that's the thing. It's if Black America, maybe Black America, well, I don't know. I can't even say that. I can't say that Black America is burning down black communities, because I think it's mostly white upper middle class America that's burning down black communities. And these white upper middle class folks, these are openly, I'll say my suspicion, I don't know enough and I can't trust anyone to know for sure what's going on, but these are some of these folks are overtly just KKK. These overt KKK still exist. These people, these quote-unquote white supremacists, they actually exist, folks. People have actually somehow been able to avoid reality to such a degree that they can hold on to a notion that white people are superior to anyone, that any one group is superior to any one group. The idea that races have some sort of inherent inferiority. We know better because we have friends and neighbors and relatives of multiple races in America now. There's very few Americans left that are not fundamentally connected to multiple races. So our connection to these multiple races makes it increasingly difficult for me to understand how anyone, whether if you're not a white person and you ascribe to the whole POC thing, it so reduces you. It reduces you to what? It reduces you to not white. POC is just a way of saying not white. It's literally people of color, as in not white, as opposed to white. Somehow white is not a color. White is a color, by the way. We're people of color too. White people are people of color. So that's another idiotic thing about that whole phrase. But that phrase reduces all of you to this anti-white, and it empowers whiteness. It makes whiteness more powerful, something to be feared. And they want you to fear this beast that you can never take hold of, and the only way you can control it is to surrender your lives, your minds, your thoughts, your actions to the good brains, to the good moral brains of what has become a cult. And more like corporations have signed up for the cult. And so these folks, that they're coming from a place, even though as they're being manipulated and as they're watching white people come in, some of these white people are just KKK that are opportunists trying to trigger a race war, trying to make it look like black people did this to start a race war. They've been trying to start a race war for I don't know how long. And then you got the Antifa-ers, and I think that almost all, and I could be wrong. So if you're a white Antifa, I would not assume, if you are white and Antifa, I would not assume that you are a what I'll call a dialectical white supremacist, a dialectical KKK. But I suspect that 90+% of you are dialectical KKKs, you Antifa, especially the Antifa that come from the upper middle class white communities. These folks, these folks recognize the inherent dialectical white supremacism in many, especially and you can't paint all SJW alike. The very particular flavors of authoritarian SJW that these corporations and most of these large alleged nonprofit groups, the ones that these are backing up, the ones that the corporations, the media, the culture leaders, the news outlets, this particular brand of SJW, which is I call just SJW authoritarianism, their underlying assumptions, like dividing the world between people of color and white, that immediate division right there is an empowerment to white people. And see, the dialectical Antifa recognize that, even if they don't I believe many of them are self-aware, and they know full well what's going on here. They knew full well the power of authoritarian SJW to perpetuate white supremacism in a very, very devious, sneaky way, in a way that gives the folks that are in this quote-unquote people of color status the same kind of feeling of triumph that I guess hostages in a bank robbery feel when their bank robber gets away at the end. They're just so happy, and they all feel like they went through a victory with this person, even though this person is the one that kidnapped them and was going to kill them, and probably even maybe killed a couple of them. But still, even at that, it's called Helsinki syndrome. It's what you're suffering from. Most human beings are actually suffering from some form of Helsinki syndrome, but it's a little bit more invidious than that for some. For most people, it's just Helsinki syndrome. For some, it's something more. It's not Helsinki syndrome. It's I want my butt in that seat. I want to be able to write down the orders that fundamentally affect the lives of hundreds of millions of human beings with no regard or care as to the thousands that because of my order will die pretty quickly or within the next few years because of how my decisions have destroyed their lives, with no care whatsoever. So these folks, they're just kind of floating out there in this space where they're being manipulated as human shields to advance what I call dialectical white supremacism. At some point, they're going to figure it out. And I hope that the people on the quote-unquote right, that you don't fall for the bait that these folks are setting up. They absolutely want you to hate black people and gay people because they use gay people, the rainbow shield and the pox shield. That's what they use. In the end, what they really want is they want these groups, and I'm not talking about all Antifa. I'm not talking about all, even not all authoritarian. I'm talking about a certain group of people. I'm talking about white upper middle class Antifa. That the significant portion, this is what SJW is for them. I'm not saying this is not what all, I don't want you running around saying SJW is just dialectical white supremacism. Certain versions of it are. Only certain versions of it. And what a surprise, the version that the corporations are pushing, that's the version. That's the version. What a surprise. White corporatists advancing SJW, but a version of SJW that I'm supporting, and this is just my theory, is dialectical white supremacism. But you see, that will pervert and destroy all of the legitimate narratives out there that white people should pay attention to. We white people, not as an individual. You as an individual that happens to be white, you should be paying attention to. If you haven't come to terms with understanding how significantly different life in America for black people is as opposed to white people, that's the first step to understanding what you're dealing with. And I'm not going to appeal to you to come to know that because of kumbayas or loves or equalities. Fuck all that shit. Those are spooks. Those are ghosts that put you in vague boxes that only the Citadelians control. No, I'm going to appeal to your sense of consensuality to tell you this is where I'm getting back to. Black Lives Matter. The hashtag Black Lives Matter. See, that comes from the reality. That however it's been perverted, however marketers have come in to co-opt it, whether they're just marketing to sell their products or whether they're marketing to sell their crypto, their dialectical white supremacism, whatever it is, whether they think this is the path to Marxism, whatever it is, the underlying cause of why this hashtag resonated hasn't gone away. And just because these people are perverting it doesn't take away from the fact that within our lands, we have allowed a group of people that we mostly drug over here against their will. We use their resources. By the way, Black America, stop going around saying you built fucking America. You didn't build fucking America. We all built fucking America. In fact, none of us built fucking America. We're building it or destroying it right now. But none of us built America. We don't own what our predecessors did for good or ill. That's just insane. If I could get rid of that notion. You didn't build America. But you did. You're the people that you came from. Your mothers, your fathers, your grandmothers, all the way back, all that stuff. Okay, they contributed significantly to America. Who contributed the most? I don't know. I tell you one thing, I would never say white people contributed the most. I wouldn't say white people built America. I wouldn't say any one race built America. The Chinese built America. The Mexicans built America. See, that's the thing about America that we can't escape. It's just so difficult in America to keep living the lie that races are fundamentally in value ways, good and evil. That human beings, because of their race, are inherently one way or another. These things are disprovable all over the map, all over the place. Just in my personal experiences, it's total BS. I can't believe it. I can't even, the heuristic institutions that were created in me. I mean, I still have certain heuristic institutions that are kind of like, I never really came to terms with them because incidents didn't happen that would trigger this knee-jerk reaction that I can't see it yet. But on the main, most of these heuristic institutions are dead within me, not because of kumbayas or I don't want equality. I don't want justice. I just want to be left the fuck alone. And I want you to be left the fuck alone. Because if you're not left the fuck alone, I know I won't be left the fuck alone. That's what I want. and Black Lives Matter emerges because black people are not being left the fuck alone. They live in a police state. The vast majority of blacks in America live in communities that have very different standards than you and I face. Now, what I would like black America to realize, and I'm not telling you to vote Republican, they're not going to help you. They still believe in bootstraps. They still believe you're there mostly because of your own choice. So fuck them. But fuck the Democrats, because it's their particular policies in these cities. They didn't pass these policies because of Republicans. The gun control laws that keep empowering thieves and well, basically criminals, actual people willing to violate others who are not. I mean, if you're gang banging and you're shooting gangs competing, that's one thing. I mean, I'm not favoring that. I'm not for that. I'm talking about you're not shooting gangs. You're shooting people that aren't even in your gangs. You don't even care about the bystanders. You're robbing people that aren't in it. Those people, okay, that's what I'm talking about. These people know that they live in an unarmed society. So they have all the power, all the cockiness, all the bravado in the world, because they know 9 times out of 10 or even more, if they have a gun and that person's not a criminal, they don't. These gun control laws, these weapons laws in general, all of the fine particular knife laws, that's where they really get your kids. They get your kids with a combination of weapons and drug laws. And they put your kids away for decades to work themselves to death on work farms run by private prison corporations. That's the world that we live in. That's the world they live in, and they know it. They see their kids getting taken off these streets every day and never to return. That's the world that they live in. And if you don't come to terms with this, if we don't come to terms with this, if black America doesn't come to terms with the first step, form your own fucking parties that actually just form parties focused on your communities. Form I don't know the names of, like, if you're in Brooklyn, whatever a Brooklyn particular neighbor, form that neighborhood party. That neighborhood party. This is going to be a party of the people, by the people, for the people. You're going to have your fucking bills of rights. You're going to have your gun rights. That's one of the first steps. Get your gun rights back. Demand that you be able to own guns to protect yourselves. End these damn drug laws. End the weapons laws and the drug laws in your communities. Make them sanctuary cities for the bills of rights across the board. No more drug laws, too. Sanctuary cities for drugs. You do that. I'm not saying that you condone drugs or sell anything. I don't want you to be pro-drug either. I don't think you would be pro-drug. But you take away the power of these citadelians to continue to control your kids. And then the next step, all of us lobby. I mean, I'm not pro-government at all. I'm an anarchist, but within this pragmatic world that within the pragmatic reality of power that I find myself in, all of us lobby our freaking government to change the welfare laws so that families stay together. Just change that immediately. You do those things and immediately you'll have an impact on black communities. Highly positive impact. And this is what I want for black America. Black America is absolutely what I say. It is the canary in the coal mine. And right now, I don't want it in the end that to be what black America stays. That shouldn't continue to have to be the canary in the coal mine for the American soul. If black America is thriving and free on its terms, not a bunch of white billionaires come from the outside and pay them money to do their programs in their particular ways with their particular vehicles of power that keep them in their catbird seat. No. I'm talking about nothing like that. You don't get any say in what black America does with what black America wants to do. You let black America be what black America wants to be. And in all of its variations, and there'll be plenty of variations. That's what I want. If you have that, the Democrat Party is dead in America. And for that matter, I think the Republicans will soon follow, because their whole role is basically to, be anti-Democrat parties for the most part. That's the way I've seen them. And then not even a very good, really over the last 30 years, not even a good job at that. The Democrat Party, the ability for fascists, for total psychopaths to manipulate whole swaths of people to be whipped up through an injustice that they themselves caused. The Democrat Party is literally whipping black America up to a frenzy of hate basically against white America for some reason. And meanwhile, all of these white people, mostly white people, leading you to this hatred against white America. White poor America, by the way. They want you to hate white poor America, notice. They're demons, the people they always hold up, for the most part. Bunch of white poor people. They want you to hate white poor America, not white corporate state America, because corporate state America is your friend. Look at all the Black Lives Matter stuff they're doing. They're just wonderful ducky. Now, they're still doing business with governments that murder people because they're gay. That's fine. It's okay for them to do that. But hey, Black Lives Matter. But anyway, these companies have no interest in black America being what I have envisioned in my head. There will be no massive infusion of capital that doesn't have tremendous strings attached, strings that are designed in the end maybe to give black America a slightly better position, but not enough to make black America the full force that it could be. And I tell you the truth, if black America is unleashed in a good way, not in a terror way, if black America is unleashed, if you put your foot off their necks, if you stop grinding these folks, these human beings down, this is going to be horror for China. Because a strong black America as part of the American equation is an incredibly powerful America. Incredibly powerful. We will never, ever be a strong America again if we ever, well, we were in terms of real power, real military power at least. And I'm not talking about that kind of power. I'm talking about a power for Americans within to live lives of their own choosing, that kind of power. We'll never be that if black America continues to exist in the state that it's in. I don't care how much money it costs, it has to end. And if it doesn't end, these cycles, these very useful cycles, these cycles for Citadelians offer them opportunities to reboot when they invariably screw up. And they always do, and they always will. All right, I'm going to end this segment. I get a lot of I get all of the stories that I end up covering for the Frico Talks News show from my aggregate of Newslink sites. One of them is newslight.com. If you went there today, you would see, this is the glitz, the odd, the under the radar, the hard to believe. You would see the New York Times writers calls out Tom Cotton op-ed in protest. At least 39 injured in knife attack at China kindergarten. Creating a tissue incubation system to help people with major tissue loss. And Saints Malcolm Jenkins rips Drew Brees' shut the F up sometimes. Coming up next is our dialectical, and our dialectical today is the principle of Martin Luther King's non-cooperation with evil. Oh, I didn't change the scene. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, you know what? I'm going to make sure that I change the scene. There you go. This is a scene that you would have seen. Oh, and you would have seen this. I didn't get to this. Oh, man. You know what? Swarm satellites, just because I would not have kept you up if I had switched this scene during the show or during the segment. But since I didn't during the segment, Swarm Satellite stays. We'll see that next time. All right. Well, thank you very much, everyone. There, you got to see all three scenes. Good. Good. I did it. I did it. All right. That was weak sauce. I got mired in that one. I failed in that one. I'm very happy I didn't take my allergy medicine today, because if I did, that would have been a 4-hour segment. Wow. Because the allergy medicine really kind of, it just, ugh, I don't like it. I usually wait to the end of the day. I'm stupid. Anyway, let's get ready to record the dialectical. And switching on over here, and we'll start recording in 3, 2, 1. This is the dialectical for Frico Talks the News on Friday, June 5th, 2020. My name is Frico with Frico.com. And here is our dialectical for today. The principle of Martin Luther King Jr.'s non-cooperation with evil. So I want to say in advance that this is one of these stories when you're right, you're like, I could read it that way. I could maybe not. So yeah, I'm gonna present this to you. I'll ask you, comment down below and let me know if what you think about my interpretation and how this could be read. I'm very interested in general in seeking to understand where potential new narratives might be emerging. So I saw this on this Reddit thread at the very top, and it showed up. Well, I have a methodology to figure out what is not an exact scientific wonderful methodology, but a general methodology for this story is important to me, more so because this particular linkage got a certain amount of prominence to it that makes me wonder. So that's what caught my eye. And when I saw this, I thought, oh, wonder. So this is a speculation on my part. But if nothing else, hopefully, if you're not one to think too much about propaganda and agitprop and how they do what they do, then maybe potentially you might learn a little bit about how to discern what you hear around you. If you pick, especially if you start hearing the same particular type of phraseologies, this is how you start to understand a narrative is beginning to emerge, and it can help you a lot. And especially it will help you build confidence in your predictable models if you see a particular narrative and kind of call it in advance, and then you see it emerge and you're like, okay, this model is working in my head. So that would be the biggest reason why I want to share this with you. However, we'll see how close I get to the mark, if you guys agree with me or not. So here comes the opening quote is just this is the Christianity Reddit thread, and this got a prominence in that thread for quite a while. Non-cooperation with evil is as much a moral obligation as is cooperation with good. Now that right there is such a loaded phrase in and of itself. Now we're going to be looking at the whole quote down here where this is from, so we'll look a little bit about. I'm not necessarily interested so much in what MLK said, but this is the quote that you start off with. Non-cooperation with evil is as much a moral obligation as is cooperation with good. I want you to understand that concept. The concept is basically a declaration that you are morally obligated to fight evil. And you would have to say where that would lead. Well, I won't say any more about that just yet. So that's the first connotation is if you're not fighting evil, then you're not meeting a moral obligation. I'll just leave it at that for now. And that's a loaded term in and of itself. Here's the quote. To our most bitter opponents, we say, we shall match your capacity to inflict suffering by our capacity to endure suffering. That's stupid. Oh, yeah? Oh, you could throw a punch? Well, guess what? I could take a punch. So, like, if I punch you, nothing will happen. No, you'll probably kill me, but I could take it. We shall meet your physical force with soul force. No, never. I mean, there are very practical, pragmatic reasons to sometimes meet physical force with this, quote, soul force, but nonviolent resistance has its place. But as a general principle, I'm going to say the reality of power suggests to me, no. Bullets usually are not stopped with soul force. They can be stopped to a certain degree before they ever show up. But once they show up, soul force doesn't stop them. Do to us what you will, and we shall continue to love you. Well, that's actually, there's a lot of pragmatic reasons, there's a lot of pragmatic reasons why you might actually want to consider trying to adopt that and owning that as much as you possibly can. I'm not going to get into why, because I want to keep this thing to a reasonable level, because it's going to be a long segment, I tell you that.
We cannot in all good conscience obey your unjust laws because non-cooperation with evil is as much a moral obligation as is cooperation with the good. So understand the connotation here, what's coming here. The guy is this is passive. I would say this is pretty classical pacifist type language here. So that's the context. The context is you are loving of the other, and your resistance is to basically, I will say, your resistance basically is to make it obvious to the other just how evil and horrible they're being, and they'll be convicted by their own sin shame. Is essentially, I think, that's where I think Martin Luther King was kind of thinking there. So then you take this phrase. We cannot in all good conscience obey your unjust laws. See, this is the thing. Unjust laws. Okay, I hate the word unjust. All you got to do is, we live in America. The only unjust laws are the laws that we arbitrarily define as unjust. Well, we don't arbitrarily. It's not, there's no, I would argue there's no such thing as arbitrary. What there is arbitrary. Well, the standards are not actually what you've been told the standards are, and then it can seem arbitrary because the judge or whoever is not really using standards that they allege to use. So we say arbitrary rulings of judges. They're not arbitrary. They're vehicles of power, very, very specific vehicles of power that enrich their position and hopefully do damage to the factions. So there's no such thing as just or unjust in the way that I think of the world, but anyway, I think it's very, very, very interesting. Again, what we're talking about is this is passive resistance. This is non-compliant resistance. That's what he's talking about. He's talking about non-compliance. He's talking about not obeying laws. And notice what he's talking about also. He's talking about a whole systems. Now, he recognizes the individual action of the systems, but he's talking about these whole systems that are acting in their aggregates to inflict suffering, to send out physical force. That's what he's talking about. Because non-cooperation with evil is as much a moral obligation as is cooperation from the good. Now, I hate this. I just hate this. There's so much spookiness in this sentence. There's so much opportunity for tyrants to step right in and use this in a very, 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 very bad way. I don't fault Martin Luther King for the phraseology, and I'm not judging him for this. All in all, I don't like everything about him. I don't like everything he said, but on the main, he's a positive figure for me. I admire him, and I like a lot of his sentiments. Certainly, some of my current assumptions about what America should be doing to actually become the America that it alleges that it is you could find in Where Do We Go From Here, where he's basically talking about a massive infusion of capital into these communities, unconditional capital that allow these communities to create themselves in whatever they want to, however they end up emerging with their particular moral constructs and whatevers. It's their communities, it's their decisions. We just need them. The infusion of capital is not about reparations. That's horrible. That reinforces that whole revenge narrative that always leads to violence. It can't be. It's not about reparations. I don't owe anyone anything other than anything I did to you personally. I owe anyone nothing. I have no shame in whatever advantage I have as a white person. I don't have any pride in it either, or love, or I have no desire for it to continue, if it is even at this point. But some degree it is sometimes, but I'm not necessarily one way or another. I'm not for it. I would say on the main, I'm against individuals having any advantage based on their race. So I guess you could say fundamentally I'm against it, but I'm not ashamed of it. I'm not ashamed of being part of the system that from the start told me all kinds of lies, and then I had to struggle to overcome what was told to me. I'm not ashamed of that at all. But I I am not for reparations. I'm not for condemning human beings for the actions of others, especially actions of others that died 100+ years ago. But I am for ending the blight in our communities that is the ghetto system. The whole ghetto system designed and perpetuated by the Democrat Party, the racist Democrat Party, I'm going to say. Not that all Democrats are racist. Most of you are not. And there's plenty of racists in the Republican Party. But the instrument, the engineers, the thought leaders, the controllers, the citadelians that are really the Democrat Party, whatever you think it is, it's not. These folks engineered this, designed this, created this to contain black America at the detriment to all of America. See, you should be personally offended. White America should be personally pissed off at these citadelians for what they've done, because they've sapped this vast reserve of greatness within us. They've degraded it. They keep stomping on its neck and grinding it down and pointing all of its anger, frustration at the people that are also being hurt by it. The poor whites, poor blacks. When poor blacks leave their ghettos, if they do, to spread the violence, if they do, it's first off, it's going to be 60+% white upper middle class twits leading the charge. And they're going to be going from the black neighborhoods to the suburbs, feeling like we're getting them now, the suburbs. We are the poors in the suburbs. Compared to you, we certainly have it way better. But compared to the people that are really putting their foots on your necks, your own political leaders, your own business, I'm talking about the business leaders, not your small business leaders. I'm talking about your business leaders, the corporate business leaders with their corporate territories in your places. Those people, yeah. They don't give up. They don't give a flying fuck about you. You're just human shields to them. And they'll leave you with nothing in the end. And what they want, as they send you out into the suburbs to attack the poors in the suburbs, they want the poors in the suburbs to fight back and annihilate you. That's what they want. This is strong. I mean, this is what my strong suspicion. I give it an 80+% percentage as far as the degree to which I think I'm right. That's what these citadelians really want ultimately. Ultimately, they want to restore white power in America. They're going all out of their way right now to make you feel good, to whip you up into a frenzies of hate. Why do you think they're trying to whip up 10% of the population to make 90%, eventually 90% of the population hate it? Why? Because they want to annihilate you. They want to wipe you off the face of the planet. That's my suspicion. They're done with you. You've served your usefulness, and now it's time to move on. That's my suspicion. And they'll get the tremendous reboot that they need, so their debts will be forgiven. But in that transition, our debts will not. We'll still owe the banks. They won't. We will. They won't. And we'll have a nice reboot, and white power will be restored for a very, very specific white power, a rich white power. The poor whites will still be maybe a little bit ahead of everyone else. I mean, don't get me wrong. I don't think they're going to succeed at all. I think they badly miscalculated. This is what they want. The net result is going to be that if there's any race war, if it starts, it's going to be a bunch of white people and black people that get between the thugs and annihilate all of them. We'll annihilate you on the left and the right. The Nazis, the fascists, the authoritarians, the supremacists. In the end, I believe, America will find itself. We 80+%, that's my suspicion. 80+% of us across all kinds of lines, across the upper, even the upper middle class, the poorest of the poor, whether you're white or black, gay, straight, you're they, you're he, you're a Christian, you're a Muslim, you're an atheist. This 80% that we all have come to understand the practicality of consensuality in general, and the usefulness of such a construct as the Bill of Rights to allow us all to be part of this. So I don't even know. I didn't even get to my part. I'm already 15 minutes into this, and I didn't even get to the part that I wrote. So that's cool. That's cool. So let me continue with this. I knew this was going to be a long segment, and that's okay. Every once in a while, one of these is going to be a half hour, and I'm going to be okay with that. Throw us in jail, and we shall still love you. Bomb our homes and threaten our children, and we shall still love you. Send your hooded perpetrators of violence into our community at the midnight hour, and beat us and leave us half dead, and we shall still love you. But be ye assured that we will wear you down by our capacity to suffer. One day we shall win freedom, but not only for ourselves. We shall so appeal to your heart and conscience that we shall win with you in the process, and our victory will be a double victory. Yeah. Well, and again, I think that kind of backs up my assumption that he believes it is when you basically you put yourself in a position that forces the other to sin. You force them to confront the violence of their own thoughts by having to actually carry them out to support them. That's the general assumption. And like almost any standard, I would say there's a lot of any standard that has, I mean, he isn't the first to say something along this line. So it's one of those old kind of Saul's kind of standards. Any of these types of standards, almost all of them have some measures of practical truth to them, but when you try to apply them universally as the one standard that you're going to follow, which people often do in life, unfortunately, they fall apart. And I think this is one of those standards. This standard, if you use it within a contextual manner, it doesn't apply in all situations. And in some situations, you're talking about we're going to suffer. Martin Luther King has a dream that there is a life hereafter. I believe in a life hereafter too, but even though I believe that there's a life hereafter, I believe that we should treat life like there is no hereafter, even we Christians. That there's a measure of stewardship that comes from that you don't get if you just concentrate on the glory to come. So if you and I believe in the glory to come, and I believe there's a practical use for that as well that counters another. Well, anyway, if you believe in the glory to come, then you will tell people, listen, don't worry about dying today, even though you're only 18, because there's a glory to come. I don't think you should ever tell anyone that. You should say, listen, probably a glory to come, but listen, God gave us the space to be stewards of what we have, including our own lives. So we don't always ascribe to we will suffer more than you can make us suffer, to a way that you will be brought to pain. This is a long process. This is an effective process in a lot of ways, but it's a process that relies human beings to basically allow themselves to be killed, and I'm not for that. Only in very rare occasions would I actually be for that. Now, if you're talking about there is degrees of suffering that you allow yourself to experience, that you allow others to inflict upon you, that doesn't involve an existential threat, that's another matter altogether. So again, there is contextuality is a good principle, but I would not want to tell any human being that it is better, that you should. The only reason that I'm willing to die is if for a cause, an idea, whatever, is that I believe that I'm on the cusp of that idea being crushed as far as ever being able to be executed. And not only that, there's something coming that will pretty much put me in a position where I couldn't even live in anything close to happiness and contentedness in the world that somebody else wants to build. Then I would rather die fighting you. But other than that, no, I want to live. I believe in Christ as Lord, and I'm going to live here and ever after, but I treat this life like it is the only thing that I have. I am a steward of the physicality that God has given me. That's how I view things. So I'm fundamentally opposed to Martin Luther King's extremist, I'll call it, pacifist presentation. But I believe that this is a harbinger of a narrative to come. It will end up being very different than how Martin Luther King is using it, although it's easy to make to draw this out to the conclusions that they are going to draw it out to. Non-cooperation with evil is as much a moral obligation as is cooperation with good. I would never try to impose my morality on others. Alrighty. I assume that the one posting this quote at this time is challenging Christians to separate from the evil. And I assume that because that's their post. They put that quote at the top. That's what they wanted you to focus on, the non-cooperation part. I am also assuming that the evil is, broadly speaking, the evil of the racists that have done this thing that set off these latest rounds of civil disobedience and not so civil disobedience. If I'm correct, this might be a theme you will see repeated among the authoritarian left. This appeal to Christians to accept the radical authoritarian strain of SJW as the only hope for ending the racist and bigoted evil that has descended our land. The first step is to establish that it is a Christian thing to separate from people of evil, because that's really where they're going with where I believe they're going with it. What Martin Luther King is talking about, non-cooperation with evil, this is about not obeying fundamentally unjust laws. This is about meeting violence with passive resistance and having a moral compulsion to do so. Now, I don't buy the whole, I don't want anybody to appeal to morality when they try to convince me to do anything. It's like, no. I'm not going to submit myself to your moral court. I want to know what I get out of it. And if every human being did that, then the world would be a much better place. If you start off a conversation with because morals, you totally take the individual will and interest out of the equation. You instantly talk to that human being like they are a process and not a sentient being. So I fundamentally reject that whole type of talking in the first place. The first step is to establish that it is a Christian thing to separate from people of evil. That's the first step. Martin Luther King helps to do that. He wasn't even coming close to, I don't think, trying to suggest that with this. But there's a sentence, and he has the mythological, moralistic, high-handed standing to have an effect with a quote like this as a tool to I guess win Christians over to your fascist cause. Martin Luther King's not a fascist. He's talking about the people co-opting the message. The second step is to assure that the definition of evil describes almost to a T the political factional rivals of the current flavor of the leftist authoritarianism. This is what you get from leftist authoritarianism. This is why Republicans are understandably so unwilling to face the reality of racism in America, because the Democrat Party, the Democrat leadership, and all the ranks and files follow suit because they can't think for themselves, basically. This Democratic leadership, they are literally using your downtroddenness and as a way to morally shame others. And right after they morally shame others for the downtroddenness existing, they follow it up with, and therefore, policies. And they have a long list of very specific policies, many of which, such as their whole family of hate speech laws, many of which are fundamental violations of the consensual building standards of the Bills of Rights. They break down the capacity of the pores to resist the concentrations of power. Fundamentally, that's what they do. Now, the Republicans on the main, they're not self-aware enough to be aware of why it is they're so. You interpret it, now in some instances it really is just racism. Somebody really is fundamentally believing white people are just better. But on the main, you people just insist that it's because they don't want to face the racisms. No, it's because they don't want to give you the power that you are going to use to do things far beyond addressing the racisms. Because in order for me to prove that I am not the racist, I have to be pro-abortion. I have to be pro-universal health care. I have to be taxing the rich at 90%. There's a whole laundry list. I have to believe that the climate change is real, that climate change is man-made. And if I believe that climate change is man-made, and I bet I'm a racist, then that means I have to believe in the very specific policies that only a handful of your priests and priestesses are telling us we need to do, based on nothing being offered other than statements of moral, authoritarian, certaintarian supremacism. That's the problem that the right has with listening to people about Rossisms. Black America, if you're listening, stop letting these fascists speak for you. They are co-opting your needs and turning them into vehicles of power that will perpetuate all of our suffering. The task is not terribly challenging in that, like every major coercive enterprise governance political faction that ever existed and will ever exist, there are multiple highly coercive, highly authoritarian factions within the major factions. And for the right, they have the overt, direct Rossists, as opposed to the authoritarian left, which has their own faction of white supremacists, the white SJW ally, reveling. Now, again, not all people who consider themselves a white SJW ally are this. I'm talking about very specific, very, very powerfully vocal, and mostly most of the wealthiest, and therefore most of the powerful in your groups. The white SJW ally, reveling in their superior role of white savior. These factions make it relatively easy to broad stroke the epithet of racist on all political folks that don't favor total and complete state control over the lives and minds of all for the task of ending the Rossisms and the sexisms and the whatevers, the homophobias or transphobias, whatever, all those things. This post and all those things. The thing is, all those things are real. They're absolutely real, and human beings have been brutalized for centuries because of these things. All of it's real. It's not. This is why they have power in the first place, because this is what you do. This is what despots do. They if you're even in marketing, identify a felt need. Doesn't mean provide a solution. Provide the emotionally believable solution is all that you need to provide. You don't need to provide a solution when you're selling. You need to provide an emotionally believing solution. Sometimes the emotionally believable solution is just doing something called assuming the sale. You just talk like the sale is already done. And that, in and of itself, is enough to get somebody to sign. Ask me how I know. I was a telemarketing manager for years, and I ran programs, I designed programs. So I know assuming the sale is the most powerful of all of the tools that I have ever incorporated. I can do that work now. That I ever incorporated to get people to say yes. They were convinced by the certainty alone. This post might be indicative of nothing, but it might, if I'm right, be one of the first signs of a new narrative, which follows the old narrative of deplatform and delegitimize with aggressively fight evil or be considered evil yourself and face the same wrath we are commanding you to carry out against your now determined evil neighbors, friends, and family. This is what happened to Drew Brees, and I'm not defending his idiotic statement. I'm also not consigning him to the pits of hell for his statement. But this is what happened to Drew Brees. This is a text that he shared with a woman, a friend of his, that he shared over a year ago, and this woman had an opportunity. I don't know her heart. I don't know for sure, so you'll have to take this as it is. But I'd be highly surprised if you don't find out this woman saw an opportunity. She saw an opportunity to show that she's safe. I'm safe. I'm one of the good ones. Look, I'm safe. I found one of the sinners, and I called him out. The man might end up getting fired. Fired for saying that he doesn't understand why Colin Kaepernick kneeled for the national anthem, and that he thinks fundamentally that was wrong and that's disrespectful to the military and police. And you want to invalidate him and say he's stupid and an idiot for his beliefs. And now I'm going to say he's not stupid and he's not an idiot. But I'll say the statement is an idiotic statement. But I understand where it's coming from. And I think that Drew Brees, I don't know anything about him. He might very well be, most likely, more than capable of coming to understand the nuance of what Colin Kaepernick, well, I believe the nuance of what Colin Kaepernick was doing. That kneeling down was, I don't believe, an intentional disrespect of the police or the military or the flag. It was a statement that said, hey, America, things aren't all right. It was almost the same as the upside down flag, which many conservatives get apoplectic if you put an upside down flag. It's like, no, this is a symbol. It literally means nation under distress. Or literally this headquarters under this fort under distress is, I think, initially, but it means it's a symbol. It means all things aren't well, and that's how I read what Colin Kaepernick did. Listen, y'all folks, listen, America, this is the perfect time. This is the song of freedom and liberty being played out with the military grandness. This is the grandness and the glory of America, which claims its grandness and glory comes from its liberty, its individual liberty. This is the perfect time, and at that time, at least half of America, for, I think, reasons that have to do with the way that you attach policies to confronting racism. Can't just say, let's confront racism. It's always going to be, let's confront racism. By the way, we have all of these particular policies. Now, there's nothing wrong with offering particular policies. The problem isn't that you say, hey, we want to end racism. Here's how we think we can end it. It's, we want to end racism. This is how we do it. If you disagree, then you're an evil person. You leave it in the hands of the few. That's not consensual. I don't trust any system that doesn't have consensuality built into its very definition of itself. And you don't. You're going to define a new culture, a new reality based on the input of a handful of priests and priestesses that are basing their authority on moral supremacist declarations of equality and justice. That's bullcrap. Why are you people even falling for this? Anyone? Any Americans? Why are any of you people falling for this? It's ridiculous. Don't do it. Just say no. Some of the places that we get our stories from are, well, all of the places we get our stories from are the aggregate of news links news link sites that I run. One of them is Obamacare.tv, free market social engineering for the masses. If you go there today, you get to curtail police impunity, Representative Justin Amash announces legislation to end qualified immunity. China renews interest in Trans-Pacific Trade Pact that follows TPP amid escalating U.S. tensions. Judge allows shareholders to sue Apple over Tim Cook's comments on iPhone demand in China. There's a lot less than he said there was. This startup is using AI to give workers a productivity score. That and more you can find at Obamacare.tv, and that's the end of this segment. Coming up next, well, it's supposed to be this. It's supposed to be the talk focus, but I went so long on this. Guess what, ladies and gentlemen? We are going to skip the talk focus. There will be no talk focus. Instead, we're going to get to the halfway part of the show. We're going to take a half hour or a 3-minute break or 4-minute break. So I will save this talk focus. I didn't do it today, so I will save this talk focus because this is something that I definitely want to talk about. I talk a lot of the stories that I cover, you notice here, are stories that they're called more. This isn't totally an evergreen story, but this is more of an evergreen story. You've heard that phrase recently. No, I'm not using it because everyone else. I've used that phrase for a long time because I've been in the news business for a while. I understand stories that some stories have a shelf life of minutes. Some stories have shelf lives of weeks. You want the stories. Ultimately, you would love it if all your stories had shelf lives of years, and some of mine, I think, do, in terms of the type of topics they cover, not my awesomeness in and of itself. But this is a story that has a shelf life of a few weeks, so I think I can save this. Facebook employee demands political censorship in the name of justice. I really want to talk more about this, so I'm going to reschedule this for one of the shows coming up next week. So coming up after the break is going to be the talk feature, and the talk feature is Terahertz radiation could kill cancer without killing you. And I think I'm just going to go right to the intermission here. I'm sorry I went so long on that segment. I knew I would go long, but because I went long on that one and the other one, that's where I'm just going to remove the segment altogether, and I might do a standalone video for it. That might be what I do. I might do a standalone video for it later in the day, but I don't want the show to run so long. So we're skipping that segment, everybody. We're going on break. We'll be back soon.
Love overwhelmed me. Love overwhelmed me. Love overwhelmed me.
Understand the actual reality of power around them just as you and everyone else alive currently are. What you're about to hear are opinions, suppositions, like gospel or scientific proofs, not infallible certainties. Brace yourself for incoming opinions that could confirm or deny your preferential view of the reality of power. Brace yourself for fallible material, fallible opinions, and values reflected, but nonetheless variable and firmly held. We do not apologize to anyone we offend. We do not apologize for daring to express our views and impressions of what we believe is and what we hope to see. We will keep talking so long as we are able.
And now, Frico attempts to talk about the news without freaking out.
That's the plan, ladies and gentlemen. You know, I'll say, generally speaking, that last two segments, I wouldn't necessarily say they qualify in their 1,000 cuts ways as a freak out. But I think all things being equal, I'm going to go ahead and change this to a -2. I'm going to consider today to be 2 shows in a row with freakouts, even though it's kind of debatable. I think I'm going to not give myself a lot of leeway when it comes to defining what a freakout might be. I'll say, in general, I really want this show to not have expletives in it at all, and eventually it won't. But I also want to... I guess there's a balance between controlling yourself and allowing people to see certain things that you want them to see. And that's where I'm at. I want to, especially while we're still in coronavirus, and I think I think I spoke in another show where I'm starting now to think about should I go out of coronavirus mode? And when I go out of coronavirus mode, you'll get a lot less of this. You'll get some of this, but a lot less. But especially during coronavirus, I really want to, I want to show my fallibility. I want to show what a piece of shit I am, in essence. And I encourage others to do the same. That's another thing I really hate about this whole SJW authoritarianism thing. It forces everyone to be on their best behavior. And that's horrible. Really evil. That's how you perpetuate not knowing what's really going on. It's how, in the 50s, people wouldn't believe that women faced... That I will say in the 50s, at the very least, in the 50s and before, we literally had a rape culture. To the degree to which we have a rape culture now could be debated, I think, in certain socio-cultural, constructive places, isolated places, maybe the remnants of rape culture still exist, but the reason that rape culture existed is because we had such a high moralistic stance towards sexuality in general that our deviations, we just hid them from one another. Nobody knew. So everybody with their deviations probably assumed they were pretty horrible, evil, worst of the worst, and they would do anything to conceal it and not let anyone know. I mean, you're never going to find out what's really going on if you're forcing everybody to show their best behavior. So I'm fundamentally opposed to it, as you can imagine. So I want to show basically what I am, which is sometimes I'm racist, sometimes I'm bigoted, sometimes I really do fear gay people. I guess you can call me homophobic.
sometimes I fear white people. I have actually go through periods of time where, for one reason, I find my my little heuristic institutional madness, the parts that I really, I'll say, so far at least, can't come close to controlling, that I start to see myself building up these stigmatism against white faces, and I have to work to undo them. So no, that's a lie. So I'm as fallible as anybody else, and I'm also as fallible as anybody else is when I feel existentially threatened. I want to believe the worst about whatever is threatening me, whether it's racist assumptions or bigoted or whatever it is. That's a lie. Whatever lie I need to believe to make it easier for me to hate them and imagine them being destroyed. This is why human beings mostly do what we do as far as the racisms and the bigotries is concerned. And I want to openly show that. And I want to live in a world in which people can not openly show it in a way that, look at me and let's treat this casually. Openly show it in a way that if and when you have this demonstration, and not just, we're all focused on racism, but it's not just racism, it's not just bigotry. There's all kinds of other ways in which we stigmatize and demonize others for reasons that have nothing to do with their actions, that we don't realize that we're doing. And it's not a horrible thing in and of itself, in that it's just a biological reality of the human species. But we have the capacity to overcome far more than we maybe ever imagined or ever thought we. One of the reasons why we even know about the racisms is because it became visible, because people started talking about it, because the ugliness started to be seen, because people stopped being in their best behavior, I guess you could say. So I ultimately want this show to become different than what it is, but right now it is what I want it to be. And part of what I want it to be is this. You see this. You see, when I have a measure in my head as far as if I have an impulse to use vulgarity, if it is, well, I'll just say, I won't try to describe my scale, but I have a methodology that I use to discern whether I want to decide to show this or not, to correct myself and not give in to this impulse, or to say, you know what, I need to let this out. I need people to see this part. Now, sometimes I don't think, I'm not, every time, if and when I ever go into paths that I don't want to, sometimes I don't think about it. But on the main, I usually, I want to basically be free to make mistakes, and I'm going to live as if I live in a land that lets you do that, come hell or high water. I'm just, that's my commitment to the cause, is I'm going to be an idiot openly. And as coronavirus breaks and I exit out of that, I'm still going to be committed to showing this part of me, the dark evil side that we all have. I want to make sure that you never forget that I'm dark and evil too. But you'll see a lot less of it, only because, well, never mind why necessarily, but I won't be documenting who and what I have been and am and involving in coronavirus anymore. So my personal necessity for documenting this part of me, I'll say the undisciplined part, the part that goes more with the impulses, the existentially felt impulses, rather than the ideational disciplined approach to living, I'll say. So with that in mind, let's get to the talk feature here. And we'll do this in 3, 2, 1. This is the talk feature for Freako Talks the News on Friday, May 5th, 2020. Today's talk feature: Terahertz radiation could kill cancer without killing you. And I am Freako with Freako.com. I can't believe I forgot to say that. That's the first time I've done that in a while. So let's get to the crux here before we go on with your meandering, Freako. A type of radiation that has little damaging effect on living cells has been found to be able to affect the proteins in cells in targeted ways. up until now, it has been assumed that this type of radiation, terahertz radiation, had no ability to manipulate proteins in cells, thus making it an assumed useless therapeutic medicinal tool. Now, this research shows that not only can terahertz radiation affect proteins in cells, it can do so without killing the cells themselves. So that's the essential point that I want to make sure that I make for the peanut crunching crowd. And hopefully this will be a short segment given the length of the two segments and then the little segment that I had in between here. Terahertz radiation. This is the great news, folks. Ladies and gentlemen, what they have figured out is this is the other part about this is it requires a lot less power. It requires there may be some damage there on the preliminary stages found something unexpected, which was this could actually be a type of radiation that you could use to strategically kill cancer cells that damages the cells, that has far less negative effect upon the body than the current types of radiation that we use to go after cancers. So here is an excerpt from SciTechDaily.com. Terahertz radiation can disrupt proteins in living cells. Wait, why are you doing that? You act like they heard all of the stuff that you just said and then wrote that headline. That is wrong. It's so wrong. I apologize. I apologize to SciTech Daily. If anybody from SciTech Daily sees this video, comment down below if that's true. If you are from SciTech Daily and you see this, no offense. I jumped the. I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry. I mean, you don't disrespect. Of course, you couldn't know that I was going to write this and then. Well, anyway. Terahertz radiation can disrupt proteins in living cells, contradicting conventional belief. Researchers from the Riken Center for Advanced Photonics and collaborators have discovered that terahertz radiation, contradicting conventional beliefs, can disrupt proteins in living cells without killing the cells. This finding implies that terahertz radiation, which was long considered impractical to use, may have applications in manipulating cell functions for the treatment of cancer, for example, but also that there may be safety issues to consider. This is like the what blanket that showed up. Everybody's like all toasties and around the fires having a good time, and they're like, yo man, Susan's looking good. That's Frank speaking. It's always Frank in my story. Susan's looking good. I think she and then comes along somebody, some jerk of water, literally throws a wet towel on you. Literally the wet towel shows up. That's what this is. This is wet towel. You're like, yo, Susan was wet towel. This sucks. This is devastating. Let's hope it's nothing serious. Terahertz radiation is a portion of the electromagnetic spectrum between microwaves and infrared light, which is often known as the terahertz gap, because of the lack so far of technology to manipulate it efficiently. I really like that phrase. Hold on. I think that's worthy. What do you guys think? You think I'm jumping the gun here? I think that terahertz gap is definitely worthy of inclusion, and I'm going to make you, I'm going to make you nice and safe and loving. I want nice and safe and loving for this. There we go. Nice and safe and loving. Nice and safe. There we go. There we go. Look at that. We'll just put you right here. Right here. We'll just to make you a little bit bigger, yeah, there we go. Terahertz gap. I like it. Terahertz gap. I think that is definitely worthy. That is a phrase to remember, I think, and remember this spectrum between, so you got microwaves here, infrared light here, so it's the and in the middle here, if you can replace that with terahertz gap. Hello, microwaves. Everything's based on microwaves. Oh, no. Infrared lights. No. We do crap. And then there's this stuff in the middle. It's like, yo, man, why can't you exploit us? Come on. We can do things. Because of the lack so far of technology to manipulate it efficiently, because terahertz radiation is stopped by liquids and is non-ionizing, meaning that it does not damage DNA in the way that X-rays do. Well, it's a wuss then. Can it go through some training? Is there some classes that it could attend? Is it Is it socially aware? If it was socially aware, would it work better? One issue that has remained unexplored, however, is whether terahertz radiation can affect biological tissues even after it has been stopped through the propagating of energy waves into the tissue. The research group from RAP recently discovered that the energy from the light could enter into water as a shock wave. Okay, Okay, this is cool. So listen, it's I guess it's like it's a shotgun. You're standing on the other side of the wall where, well, no, not a wall, some sort of gooey jelly thing that has substance that you can lean on, but it's got some whatever. Some flexible thing, because if you're standing behind a wall and a shotgun fires on the other side, there's a good chance you might not be experiencing shock waves. There could be some penetrations. So it's an impenetrable gooey wall, and shotgun blast goes off, and it's the shock wave that still blasts you. Considering this, the group decided to investigate whether terahertz light could also have an effect like this on tissue. So now it's not just the shotgun blast; it's the flash of the muzzle that the light penetrates. It's that. Okay, so now we're talking ninja stuff. Now we're entering into maybe engineering levels. Maybe intentional type strategic targeting kind of light waves. They performed experiments in living cells and found that in the cells, as in the solution, the formation of actin filaments was disrupted. Hold on. We're about ready to get to the however part, and I'm going to leave it at this. And I'm not going to take away terahertz gap. I think it's important for the studio audience to try to memorize this. But this part, you don't have to memorize. This is just, I don't know, this just looks beautiful. I just love the way this looks on the page there. Actin filaments, just got to work that in. I got to figure out what actin filaments are, maybe, and then work that into some poems, because that looks good on the page, doesn't it? However, there was no sign that the radiation caused cells to die. There you go. So there you go. So what they're measuring is, will the radiation from the light still do damage? According to, I see. So never mind. That went in a different direction than I thought. Dang it. I read that wrong. So what they're concerned, they're not thinking about terahertz light could be used as also an influencer. So they're not going ninja. They're going nuclear radiation going to kill you. And what they're saying is, no, man. No, bro, it's cool. It's cool. Everything's fine. According to Shota Yamazaki, the first author of the study, published in Scientific Reports. You know, I've heard that name, Yamazaki, near enough. This one, maybe this is a common name. And I'm assuming, I think this is Japanese, pretty sure. I'm pretty sure this person is at least of Japanese descent. And that name Shota, though, I love that. That looks great. You know what? Shota. We're going to add Shota to this. I'm going to put Shota at the top. Not Yamazaki. That ruins it. That makes it very pedestrian. Very, very blandy. But Shota is kind of a superhero kind of name there. So we're going to go with Shota, definitely. And there we go. And we're going to raise her up. So we're taking over the whole thing. Taking over me. Me, I can disappear. Let's do that. Let's have me disappear for a little bit. All right, now you can't see me. That's cool. All right, according to Shota Yamazaki, the first author of the study, published in Scientific Reports, it was quite interesting for us to see that terahertz radiation can have an effect on proteins inside cells without killing them, cells themselves. Okay, no, we're back on the ninja stage again. I get it. Now what they're saying is, okay, we can actually affect the proteins of the cells with the light. God, you see, this I get it. And now you guys get it. You probably already got it. We will be interested in looking for potential applications in cancer and other diseases. I mean, I appreciate what you're saying there, Shota. That's the name. That's the theme song of the show. Shota, coming from the dark lantern of Terahertz came the Lord of Power. Maybe it's a Lordess or you know what? That's kind of no. Lordess is not going to cut it. It's got to be a well, I guess a lot S. Let's call her a lot S. That's like a lady goddess, a lot S. A lot S. She could be because Shota. That's either way. It's a cool name. As a female, it'd still be the same thing. Female superhero Shota. So same theme song. Same theme song. Let's check it out. Let's say Shota Yamazaki. I don't want that little trailer there. Oh no. Oh no, come on, Shota. Show up, please, Shota. Shota Yamazaki. Let's see. Ramen's Wiki. Oh, Shota Yamazaki is a high school student and the only son of an elite family. His hobby is of killing cats earns him a visit. I don't think this is the same person. This is this is an anime character. This is awesome. Shota. So Shota is a he here. So I don't know if that is a Japanese conceit, if that's like a common male name in Japanese. There's the Twitter for Shota Yamazaki. Hi, name is Shota. I live in Tokyo. Hey, Shota, what's up? And let's see. Shota, I believe, is... Let me see. Doesn't say what Shota is. Any kind of gender specifics here? I think that's two... I would assume two males. That's what I would assume. So, I don't think I'm going to find out. I don't know, Shota. Listen, man. But listen, I admire you and your work you're doing. So that's interesting in and of itself. But I do like this phrase. We will be interested in looking for potential applications in cancer and other diseases. In what way? I mean, obviously, Shota means as a way to treat them. But, you know, just taking a piss. I'm like, are you taking a piss? Did I use that phrase right? Taking a piss? I believe I did. I think that's worth. I'm going to come back to Shota here for a minute. Taking the piss. This is a English colloquialism, meaning to take liberties at the expense of others or to be, okay, good, yeah, that's what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to be taking the piss. I'm going to be unreasonable and taking liberties. And we will be interested in looking for potential applications in cancer and other diseases. What does that mean? Are you going to help them? How can we help cancer and other diseases do better? Maybe be more socially aware and target people in more distributed ways and not such racist and classist ways? Maybe we could do that. What do you mean exactly by this? Why can't you say we will be interested in looking for potential ways to use this to kill cancer? How about we will be interested in killing cancer and other diseases with this thing? Motherfucker. Can't you do that? You know, can't you? Motherfucker. Why can't you do that? Tell cancer, go away. Tell cancer, you're going to die. Terahertz gap, we figured it out. Your days are numbered, cancer. You're going to be punched in the face by light. That's the worst thing. What an indignant way for a warrior to die. Shota! With the light of power. Destroying cancer from within while keeping the body whole. That's the dream, folks. Coming up is the last segment of the show. And ladies and gentlemen, the last segment of the show is going to be the news poem. And the title for the news poem today is Affectiva Talks Up Artificial Emotional Intelligence. And I do not have... Alrighty. And we're going to get set for that to record in a moment. Thank you for listening to this show. Really, this segment, really. It's been wonderful. For you. You're welcome. I'm not cocky. I'm just drawn that way. So when you're drawn that way, you just do what you do. Yes, I ripped off Jessica Rabbit. What was the name of that movie? No, Looney Tunes. I think it was just called... No, what was it? Was it called Looney Tunes? Jessica Rabbit? I'm not drawn. I'm not bad. I'm just drawn that way. Listen, Jessica, that is a bald-faced lie, okay? You were drawn well. Very well. I'm just going to say, as far as Jessica Rabbit was concerned, for a young, gentlemanly person of the heterosexual kind of vein, Jessica Rabbit was all right. It was Betty until Jessica. Jessica knocked Betty off her throne. That's right. I went Betty. I'm a Betty. Admit it. That's a Flintstones reference for all you newbies. Betty or Wilma, that was the eternal debate. I don't know what it is now, but Betty fell to Jessica. So you take that for what it's worth. We're gonna record the last segment of the show and of the week. By the way, I just want to say that we have actually experienced real growth on YouTube. We went from 113 to I could check right now. Let me check right now. The latest of the latest of the greatest. The last I checked, it was 180, and right now it sits at 182, ladies and gentlemen. So we've had a couple of videos that got some views. The Somalia video got the most views so far, by far, out of all the videos that I've done through the Frico project. So almost 2,000. But we had a one that's approaching 400, another one that went over 200. So we're getting stuff happening. We're getting some action to start to build, and I'd say happily we're about where maybe I thought we would be at this point. And the we, by the way, is me and all of you that have joined in this community so far. We are Frico, and Frico are we, although I will still unilaterally make the decisions. Actually, not unilaterally. I take in input from people all the time. I've made a lot of decisions to change because of what other people have told me already. So, and only within my parameters. I haven't. There's plenty that I haven't listened to, but there's plenty that I have. So, with that in mind, let's get this last thing. I wanted to add that part and say I'm very happy. I'm very happy, and thank you everyone that has joined. I don't really have a name. Maybe I won't name it. If there is enough people that eventually shows up on a name, it'll merge. But whatever, the Freak Out Gang, you call it now. That's a terrible name. You know what? I'll use that for right now because it's so horrible. That'll never be the name. That way I'm safe. It's a placeholder for right now. But whatever, the Freak Out Gang out is, whatever it is. All you folks that have joined and some of you who have commented, at least the real people, not the people that say, well, the spam accounts. Love your video. One spam account got a hold of. They said 6 times, I love your video. Weird. They want me to interact with them. I don't know. I don't block them. I just leave them there. That's part of the documentation for me right now. Just to see that. With that in mind, let's finally record the last segment of the show. There you go. There's a look at Action Batsa in the lives and the reels. See, it's showing. It's live right now. 182 subs. That is a beautiful thing. And now let's get to our news poem for today. And you'll notice that the image isn't there. Somehow I missed that. And we're going to start recording in 3, 2, 1. This is a news poem for Frico Talks to News on Friday, June 5th, 2020. Our news poem for today is Affectiva Talks Up Artificial Emotional Intelligence. The company Affectiva claims to be developing a type of artificial intelligence capable of understanding human emotions as they are communicated visually and orally. This attempt might not be new, but the company claims to be making significant breakthroughs in bringing this type of artificial emotional intelligence into being for practical daily use, and is already being used it's already being applied. So we're going to find out pretty quickly just what veracity there lies between the certainty and the confidence of this company that is called Affectiva. News first, poem follows. So this is an excerpt from aidaily.co.uk. So I assume that's Artificial Intelligence Daily. Artificial Intelligence that got emotional from AI Daily. There you go, AI Daily. I like it. AI Daily. By the way, that's not on my list of sites to regularly track and visit. So I'm going to have to make a note of that. AI Daily. Hold on. You know what? I got to make that thing. This is one of the reasons why I do this early on. I let you know exactly what the essentials of what happened in the story, because of these little diversions here. But I want to make a note here and not go on until I am copying this into my notes so that when the show is over, I can see to put that in my regular list of sites to visit, if it turns out to be as cool as, at least as this article is, if this is their regular fare. Artificial intelligence is getting in touch with its emotions, and it's happening as we speak. Artificial emotional intelligence is, in my opinion, a more advanced version of our generic, this is not me writing, of our generic AI. Again, this is the excerpt. While AI analyses data while AI analyzes data to help recommend or carry out a task, artificial emotional intelligence looks at the interactions and adds an additional layer of empathy to the mix. I love this. This to me just sounds like, I know that they can't really describe in full detail the science and particulars of what do they mean by empathy in a scientific, measurable, quantifiable way. So what are they talking about here in a granular way? You'd probably have to go through a couple of years of disciplined learning to even understand what principles they're talking about, maybe, or at least have it fully internalized. So the best that way he can offer is additional layer of empathy to the mix. It sounds, Doctor, what we have discovered is, if you look over here, look at this parameter here, we have discovered a way to add an additional layer of empathy to the mix. Well, I see it. I don't know why I didn't see that before. Holy moly, that's the way that... Oh, I get it. And then you're like, okay, it's a sci-fi movie. Suspension of disbelief. But in this case, this is... okay, I'm sorry. You guys agree with me, don't you? This is a bad sci-fi movie line. It's a bad sci-fi movie line, which is helping us bridge the gap between humans and machines. Gartner I don't get this. Well, never mind. I do get. There's. Never mind. You're being picky. Stop it, Frico. Sometimes you can just be too cute for your own good. Gartner Consultancy predicts that up to 10% of personal devices will have some form of artificial emotional intelligence within the next 2 years. And my warning of warnings, you're not going to want to hear this, Affectiva, because I bet you your game is to be in the patent and IP market to build and protect and hold on to the particular of the designs and the constructions that you conferred, and then to create dumbed-down versions to sell at various levels until you get to the highest levels where only the richest of the richest could afford to have that level of personal customization and security that their thoughts are not being created by you. I bet you're not. Well, I don't know. I don't think anything about Affectiva, but Affectiva, are you open source AI? Because if you're not, then you're wonderful that you're working on these developments. Not wonderful if you want to just put them in a vault and hoard them for the Citadelians to continue to control us by creating this. I don't believe in post-scarcity, don't get me wrong, but I definitely believe in artificial scarcity. It's a thing, it's real, and this is one of the fundamental ways that you perpetuate it. So I don't know where Affectiva stands on that matter. But in all these stories, especially with AI, I try to inject that perspective to remind my studio audience of the real stakes at play. The as close as well, what I believe is far deeper into the reality of power than most of this ghost language stuff you see from folks around you today. Oh yes, I feel like I'm special. That's right. This technology works by classifying emotions using facial expressions combined with monitoring their eye movements and voice levels. All this data is then being used together to help determine the correct response for a situation. Affectiva has also come up with an algorithm to pick up the sentiment in an email by analyzing the tone of the writing. These recent developments in artificial emotional intelligence are rapidly making their way into different sectors from healthcare, as it can provide support and help to the elderly to technology by developing a more empathetic and proactive virtual assistant. Alrighty, and now we get to the poem part of the news poem, and that is: artificial emotional intelligence puts the real in digital fields. A cinepoetic sci-factual. Affectiva, the bold she rode a charger mangled in black-steeled sinew across the frozen plains of digital waste. The moon chip glistened in the pall of the whole scene, algorithmed to emotionally stall. The breath. The teacup spills its hot containment on the front of her lovely floral summer skirt. Patched in pastel pink and milky blues, the shock of dark stain overtook her melange, and she rested in the comfort of the empathy she was instantly garnering. Pink. Pastel. Ergonomically, she was fit for the load. Affectiva, that is, the metaphorical girl with the tea-stained skirt stumbling into the garden just outside the sitting room, filled with drunk bees pillaging the open-mouthed asphados. Curiously, she stains her downloaded interpretation of the scene. Processing. Understanding the flirt in the eye as she stroked the man's hair with her glance, metaphorically. The one who drained the sweet stain from her skirt with the deliberate blotting of his tie he had ripped from his well-attended neck. The perhaps a stain, the drain. The girl is a machine, the machina, the girl in the design that figured out how to make a man fall in love with a dream. And that's the end of the news poem, which is the last segment of the show. So don't forget to don't miss anything. As a matter of fact, there is going to be, we will still have 5 videos today. If you're watching the live stream show, I skipped a segment for the show because I ran late on the others, and I want to keep the links of these shows down. But I will create a standalone video for that, so you'll still get the 5 videos. So this is the last video that you'll see ever. No, I'm just kidding. This probably won't be the last video. The focus video that I missed creating here will be. But you want to be subscribed so you don't miss that. If you watch the show, you will miss that segment, for instance. And I do standalone segments, so be sure you subscribe to Get Freako's Daily Freaks. Just enter your email and click subscribe. Go to freako.com and find this, or go to freako.com/daily and get your freak on. Get your freak on. And that's it. That's it for this segment. We will see you Monday somewhere about an hour or so after we do the show. And next week is going to be the last week in which we're going to have different times for shows. And then thereafter, we will have a set time between 6 a.m. and noon. And comment down below if you have a preferred time that you'd like to see. Not that I'll necessarily do it, but I'll consider it. Good night, everybody. Alrighty, and that is the end of the show. That is the end of the show. So I'm going to just leave it at that. And I might end this. Usually I end it with the girl with the wink, and I'm about ready. Next week I'm going to begin using a different movie. I'm not going to use this movie anymore. I'm going to switch. I'm going to use a different public domain movie as the opening and whatever, but or maybe I'll use this and I'll just pick different parts of it, because there's all kinds of really cool visuals here. But I'll pick this part particularly for right now for closing you out, and I'm going to leave this at -2. I don't get to change it. We're at -2. So Monday, the hope is, and I believe it'll happen. I believe it'll happen. Monday, I'm pretty confident after I've had some rest and relaxations that come Monday, unless some weird, crazy thing happens, that I'll be able to turn that -2 into a 1 at the end of the show. And we'll be back on track. Back on track to conquer the 21 show record that we achieved some time ago. We got there close. We were at 19 and we faltered, but we get up off our horse and we try again, and I know eventually I'm going to nail this. We're all going to nail this together, and this is going to be, already it is the greatest show of all time. This is peak podcasting at its best. My very way in which I demonstrate the flaws, in which I demonstrate error, is an attestament to the greatness of the show, for reasons. Don't worry about the reasons, just blindly accept what I have to say. Let that hypnosis take hold. Let those heuristic institutions build within you that subliminally you're like, I don't know why, but man, I just love this guy. Just let that happen. Just give in. I'll take you to a good place. Promise. I promise. I'm like, oh, listen, I'm different. I'm different. This is the greatest show of all time already. But be that as it may, I have levels and levels that no one is even comprehending, and that's where we're heading towards. So I don't want you to think that this is a deficiency. This is greatness that you're seeing right now as is. But the greatness is only going to get better. You are going to be sick of all the I'm so all right. I'm going to end the show. I'll see you Monday. Monday I will be doing the show. I am going to do the show Monday at, I think, 8 a.m. Yes. No. You know what? I really don't want to try it at 10 a.m. I don't. I'm going to try it at 8 a.m. on Monday. That's when I'm going to do it. I don't really like it to do that late now. I like to do it early. Unless I get really good numbers here doing it at this time, then I'll do this again at this time. So we'll see based on the numbers what we end up doing. But we'll see you Monday, no later than 9 a.m. and no earlier than 6 a.m. So keep posted, and I'll try to put some stuff out on the social medias, Facebook and YouTube and DLive and BitChute to let you know when I'm going to do the show on Monday. But it'll be between 6 a.m. and 9 a.m. And then after this week coming up, we will settle into a time once and for all, and then we'll lock in. And then at that point, then we're really ready to start taking off and take over the universe together as a family, a Freako family. Freako family. Huh. Well, that's interesting. I'm in the wrong place. I'm going to change scenes for the good of the whole. There we go.
Thank you for engaging with this material presented. As usual, remember your views, your suppositions do not make you subhuman, nor do they permit you to subhumanize others. No humans were harmed in the making of the show, and we extend no wish of harming anyone who hasn't directly harmed or threatened to harm others first, no matter how reprehensible we find your views.
We'll see you in the next Freako Talks, where Freako attempts to talk about news without freaking out.
It's